The first frame caught in her throat, grainy, overexposed, the kind of wrong white that made faces look waxy. Asha's voice, clean in reality, warbled like a cheap chorus pedal. On the screen, her mouth formed words she never said. I made it up. The video, Asha confessed to millions. All of it. The laptop hummed hot on the table. A strip of LED under the cabinet bled blue light across steel, across her hands. She had washed them twice since the clip went live. The smell of lemon soap clung anyway. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Mentions, DMs, a news alert with her own photograph thumbnailed beneath the headline, "Local reporter admits fabrication in viral video." She thumbed open one message from an unknown number. This is only the first cut. She stared until the letters blurred. She set the phone face down and listened to the room, settle the refrigerator compressor sigh, the upstairs neighbor's footsteps, a distant siren dopplering west. Night pressed the window. The city was a sheet of pricked lights and throat heat. Damien let himself in without knocking. The deadbolt slid against metal. A soft click. He filled the doorway with gray soot and sympathy. "Hey," he said. She didn't look away from the laptop. "You see it?" He nodded, throat bobbing. "It'll pass. Internet storms move on. You don't ignore a ghost you created," she said. He blinked. "What does that mean?" She rewound the clip to the frame where the lie began, where the mouth formed a vowel her mouth had never made. She froze it and zoomed. Pixels laddered the curve of her bottom lip. The audio waveform showed a sudden noise gate, a square-edged quiet where there should have been breath. "Someone built this," she said. "This isn't a lazy cut. It's a rebuild." Damien set a hand on her shoulder. "Warm. Careful. Please. Ash. Don't go hunting. Just call PR. We craft a statement. We hold." Her breath fogged a thumbprint on the screen. Holding is drowning slower. He let his hand fall. "Then call Chen. If this is technical, he'll know." She had already texted. The reply had come fast. "Send raw plus CRC." She slid a flash drive from a ceramic dish, the dish full of keys and hair ties, and a subway card bent at the corner. The flash drive had a sticker on it, a small, chipped star. She had labeled it 2 weeks ago raw, after exporting her final cut of a corruption story that had made a councilman sweat on camera and made enemies she could name in a whisper. She plugged the drive in and heard the polite computer chirp. Chen arrived 20 minutes later with a backpack and a hoodie pulled over bed hair. He smelled faintly of coffee and the peppery tang of metro air. "Don't play it again," he said, dropping to a knee by the table. "Just give me the file." He toggled terminal windows, like cards at a street game. The blue LED laid pale stripes over his knuckles. Lines of hash values crawled. "You're running CRC?" Asha asked. "KRC32C. Then SHA. 256. Redundancy. Baby." He glanced up, tried to smile. "We'll find the seam." Her phone buzzed. "Mom." Again. Asha flipped it over and silenced the call. The lemon soap smell sharpened, as if her skin had soured with anxiety. Damien stood at the sink, staring at nothing, hands braced on the counter. "You're trending number 3, he said. "Someone's buying placement." "Of course they are," Asha said. "Truth doesn't climb that fast." Chen hissed through his teeth. "Here." He split the screen. On the left, the checksum of her raw master, a neat string of alphanumeric solidity. On the right, the viral clip's checksum, another string, off by more than a single bit flip. See the gap at 00. Circe. Ling San. Ling Si. He said, "CRC mismatch. Audio envelope inconsistent. There's a composite channel bleeding into the mids." "English," Damien said. They planted a phrase, Chen said, probably lifted phonemes from her past broadcasts and stitched them. The resynthesis is good, but the checksum betrays them. Whoever did this exported without matching the mastering profile. Accident. Asha breathed. No. Chen's cursor hovered over a small gray line metadata. Buried. Sloppy arrogance. The refrigerator clicked off. The apartment went very quiet. Somewhere below, a dog barked twice and stopped. Damien massaged his temple. So it's fake. Great. We put that out there. Who believes hash values? Asha said. She pinched the bridge of her nose until stars pulsed. We need Chain. Who touched my footage between the studio and the broadcast server? Who had physical access? Who had motive? You're on contract through Coltech Broadcast, Damien said. They host, they, QC, they cut my check, she said. They also cut my trust. She pulled a folder from a drawer, a folder so familiar. The paper had thinned at the crease. In it, airdate schedules, sign-off sheets, a crumpled yellow carbon slip from the archive cage last Wednesday. Initial DB in spidery blue. Darla, she said, more to herself than to them. She runs the archive. You think Darla would? Damien started. Darla is meticulous, Asha said. If something moved, she logged it. If something was requested off-cycle, there's a form. Chen's fingers didn't stop. I'm scraping the public-facing CDN nodes for access logs. If they forgot to scrub, Aisha's phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. A new text. You want the next cut? She didn't answer. She hit call instead. The ring drew out. The line clicked. Breath. Soft and intimate, like someone leaning over her shoulder. Who is this? She said. Another breath. As if they stood in a server room. She heard, far away, the steady exhale of a ventilation system, the metallic whir of a rack fan spooling up, then a voice, filtered, genderless. Look at your reflection, it said. Do you believe her? The call ended. Her own breath sounded too loud. The blue LED felt colder. Damian Sfore. Block it. Don't. Chen said. I want the number. I want the call record. If we're lucky, they're lazy. Lazy people don't build this, Damien said, pointing at the screen where the false confession paused mid-vowel, her face ridiculous and sad. Arrogant people do. Chen said. Arrogant people document. Asha's hand had stilled on the folder. She felt a small, stubborn pulse of heat under her sternum. Not anger. Focus. It tightened her jaw and steadied her fingers. We start with the archive, she said. If there's a dirty request, it lives on paper. You think they'll just show you? Damien asked. I don't ask, she said. I sign. He frowned. What does that mean? Chain of custody. She tapped the yellow carbon slip in the folder. You don't argue the ocean. You mark where you stepped in. Chen's terminal pinged. He leaned so close. His hoodie brushed the keyboard. Oh, he said softly. Oh. Hello. What? Asha stepped around the table, shoulder to shoulder, reading lines of timestamps and IP blocks. Internal access, he said, gentle now as if speaking to a skittish animal. Coltech intranet node. User identifier. E7. Logged in at 02:13 local. Pulled your raw file from the staging folder. Wrote to a hidden directory for 12 minutes. Pushed to CDN. They forgot to anonymize the UID in the CDN cache key. Damien breathed out a curse. Asha watched the cursor blink. The cursor blinked back. The room felt very small, like an elevator stalled between floors. Who's E7? Damian asked. Chen shook his head. Employee numbering, probably OpSci. Could be a service account. Could be a person. Asha reached for her phone again. Her fingers left damp prints on the case. She opened her gallery and scrolled past photos of whiteboards, copy of subpoenas, a shot of her shoes on a courthouse floor. While she waited for a door to open, she found the picture she'd taken last month at the broadcast center when she'd dropped a drive at 1 a.m. A laminated sheet taped to a server cage door, a list of on-call operators with single-digit IDs: E1, Pierce K, E2, Noah B, E3, Z, Alvarez, E4, M, Song, E5, Darla B, E6, vacant, E7, blank space. The photo was crooked. Her thumb had blurred the corner. The E7 line was empty, not erased, left blank. She stared at it until the letters ghosted. A small static crackled inside her chest. Vacant, Damien said, peering over her shoulder. E7's not a person. Or they stopped putting names on the line, she said. Her apartment seemed to tilt a degree. She put her hand against the cool cabinet edge to steady herself. The laminate had a small chip she hadn't noticed before. Her finger found it, worried it. Tomorrow, Damien said, we go together. We ask for a meeting with Pierce. No, Asha said. We don't ask Pierce anything. Why not? He sounded offended and scared. A cocktail that made his voice thinner because he'd already know what to say. She closed the folder, the paper edges whispering. We go to the basement. We ask the person who counts tapes at 3 a.m. Chen unplugged the flash drive and palmed it like something fragile and sharp. He dropped it into a small zip bag, pressed the seal hard until it clicked. He wrote the date and time on a strip of masking tape and stuck it across the top. First bag, he said. Start the chain now. I'm not evidence. Asha said. You are today, he said, until we hand you off to yourself. Asha stepped to the window while he labeled the bag. While Damien paced and argued with an imaginary PR team, she watched the city breathe. A bus thumped over a seam in the street. A plane stitched a white line across the black. In the glass, she saw herself. Not the shaky liar in the viral clip, not the girl from her driver's license with bad bangs and a studio smile. This one had circles under her eyes and a mouth held very still. She lifted her phone and snapped the reflection. The shutter sound made them both look up. Insurance, she said. For what? Damien asked. For me, she said. Chen's laptop chimed again. One more line in the log window. Time stamped 3 minutes ago. Server UTC E7. Access granted Archive Vault Room 5. The cursor blinked. Patient. The refrigerator kicked back on with a shiver, as if the apartment had a spine. Aisha didn't smile. She didn't speak. She put both hands on the table, flat and ready, and leaned into the blue light. They hit the street before dawn, that pocket of morning when the air feels unassigned. The sky held a low iron blue, the kind that flattens buildings and makes windows into coins. Asha's breath smoked. Damien handed her a coffee she didn't want, and a look she couldn't absorb. Coltech Broadcast took up half a block on Grant. Glass and concrete. A badge reader glowed teal by the revolving door. Inside, the lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet, a mix that never washed out. TVs hung silent, looping yesterday's news. The security desk clerk had a crossword and a scar that tugged one eyebrow into a question mark. His nameplate read, Rawl. Morning, he said, not moving his pen. Delivery. Archive access, Asha said. Room 5. Raoul's pen paused mid-square. His eyes flicked to the clipboard where visitor fields sat blank. He moved a sign-in sheet toward them with 2 fingers. Names, he said. ID. Reason. Chain of custody review. She kept her voice level. We're auditing a file movement. He seemed to appreciate the language. He tapped his keyboard. eyes on the screen. The elevator dinged behind them, the sound small in the big room. "You have a supervisor?" he asked. "We have the right words," Damien said under his breath. Asha wrote her name in block letters and a timestamp. Lin Luke. Shirar. She added a second line. Chen Li consultant. Chen would meet them downstairs. She left an empty row below. A habit learned in court basements and records rooms, a space to catch a shadow. Raoul printed visitor badges and a temporary key fob from a machine that coughed before it spat. He slid them over. "Basements carded at the door," he said. "No phones in the vault. They'll make you lock them. Green tags only." "What's a green tag?" Damien asked. Raoul tugged on the ribbon around his neck, showing the plastic hanger clipped with a green stripe. "Permission," he said. "It ain't laminated courage." In the elevator, the walls were polished steel. Their reflections rode up with them, gray and bleary. Asha touched the edge of her badge like a coin and focused on the slight sway of the car. His stomach didn't mind. Her hands did. The basement opened on a corridor, painted a color that might once have been cheerful. The air turned colder. The sound changed, too. A layered hum of HVAC, a far-off clatter of carts, the steady beep of a server UPS that somebody should have silenced. Chen waited on a bench by the vending machines. Hoodie up, backpack at his feet. He held a mesh pouch of clear evidence bags and a Sharpie like a bouquet. "Hi," he said, standing. "Sign the chain." He had printed a simple form with lines and boxes. Item. Time. From. To. Signature. He labeled the first one USB raw master and handed her the pen. It bled thick on cheap paper. "You're making this real," Damien muttered. "It's already real," Asha said. At the vault entrance, a bored man in a cardigan handed them key lockers and a little tray for metal. He had a mouthful of cinnamon gum. The sign above him read, "No food, no drink, no liquids, no pen, no outer jackets, no phones, no fog of memory." That last line was someone's joke in a darker ink. They dropped their phones into velvet slots, slid the tray under the plexiglass slot, and received green striped tags, clipped like hospital bracelets. The vault door rolled open with a mechanical throat clear and revealed rows, shelving and tape canisters and gray plastic bins with barcodes tight to their flanks. The cold sharpened, and with it the smell of dust and magnet. Darla stood at a rolling table by an old CRT monitor, eyes narrowed at a manifest, a pencil behind her ear. Her hair was a tight white coil at the nape of her neck, a cardigan her only armor. "You're early," she said without looking up. "I like early. Early leaves breadcrumb." "Darla," Asha said, "we need your eyes." Darla did look up then. She took them in badge glow. Green tags. Inadequate coats. Her mouth made something like a smile and decided against it. "What do you want to see?" she asked. "Pull log for last Wednesday," Asha said. "Room 5, cage C. A file with my name on the chain." Darla flicked her wrist, and the manifest pages fanned like cards. She wore fingerless gloves. The pencil never left behind her ear. "Why me?" she asked. "Because you count when it's raining," Asha said, "and because you initial with a pressure that indents through to the cardboard. People who do that don't forget." Darla's eyes softened by a degree. She tugged a drawer open with her knee and pulled a flat box of slips. Each one yellowed at the edge, each one crisp. She found Wednesday and dropped it onto the table. "Room 5, she said. "Cage C." "Here." The slip was neat as a ledger. Requester, E7. Timeout, Ling R. Shasan. Asset, 230412AK. MXF. Custodian, D. B. Darla had signed back in at 02:25 with a note, Returned, sealed. A small diagonal line crossed her initials. Darla's private habit, for I saw it with both eyes. E7 again. Damien said, "Who signs for a ghost?" Chen whispered. Darla watched their faces. "You came with a story and a hole." She said, "Let me fill what I can." E7 requests come through the system, not the phone. They print on the dot matrix with a green stripe. Room 5 eats them. I fetch. I don't ask why. I mark the time. "You saw who picked it up?" Asha asked. Darla paused. A small, crease-deep pause that felt like a spoon hitting a countertop. "You know the rule," she said. Eyes on the paper, hands on the bot. "Rules can be used to hide theft," Asha said. "They're not holy." Darla's pencil finally slid from behind her ear. She tapped it 3 times, then pointed it at the CRT monitor's clock. The red digits read 06. "Arsha Joe, 2 months ago," Darla said, voice low. "We had an audit. New CCO from upstairs. Young. Perfume, like an airport duty-free. She wanted efficiency. She said we had too much human friction." She added E7 for emergency pulls to bypass human friction. "Name?" Chen asked. Darla lifted her chin. "I file boxes. Names leak." Asha nodded. The hum of the vault pressed on her eardrum. Somewhere, a tape robot whirred, graceful as a dancer in its own mind. E7 made one pull that wasn't routine. Darla said, "Last Wednesday, the request ticket had the wrong font. There was an extra space in the asset ID, like a man wearing the right suit with the wrong shoes." She slid a printed ticket from under a blotter. The paper stripe was the same shade of green as her tag. "I kept the duplicate." She placed it in Asha's hand. The weight of it felt like permission. "Composite 2304112 AK MXF." The space after the hyphen was doubled. The font's number 2s had a longer tail. "Why keep it?" Damien asked. "For when someone asked the right question," Darla said. Asha took a breath, slow to avoid spinning. "Ihr fingers tingle." She wanted to hug Darla and shake her in equal measure. "Sheen," she said. "Bag it." He slid the ticket into a clear sleeve and sealed it with a satisfying press. He labeled it with the time and his initials. He added it to the form. "Chain grows," he said. Darla's gaze drifted past them to cage C. Her face tightened. "A weather map predicting storm. Room 5 makes copies," she said. "Not for air, for legal. They call it shadowing. If something is altered midstream, the robot still has the original, scratched with the operator key. It's not policy, it's memory." "Can we see?" Asha asked. Darla's pencil hovered over the sign-out sheet. "You didn't hear it from me. You've never heard anything from me. I like my pension. I like my quiet. Both whistle if I breathe wrong." "I'll never use your name," Asha said. Darla slid a drawer open with a practiced hip bump and pulled a key ring the size of a small halo. Each key had a number stamped into the metal. She walked to cage C. The lock was old. It loved her. It clicked. Inside, a rack of tapes blinked codes in red LED. A little galaxy of numbers breathing. Darla's finger ran the spines. Counting by habit, she stopped at a slot labeled 230412LGL. She tugged. It resisted, then slid free with a mechanical sigh. She turned it in her hands, fragile and stubborn. A little strip of masking tape ran along the edge with a thin Sharpie/DB. Darla's initials. The diagonal line was there. Robot recorded the take. She said, "We can play it on the bench." They did, hunched like technicians in a forgotten lab. The CRT hummed canvas white before the image shook into place. The raw camera feed of the interview. A 5-second pre-roll leader with a sharp tone that made their molars ache. Asha recognized her own voice on the slate. She recognized the way she tugged once at her jacket sleeve. When she was thinking, they scrubbed to the 14-minute mark. The spot Chen had flagged in the hash, on the legal shadow, nothing happened at 00. Sir Seat. Ling San. Lin Si. No strange gate. No square silence. A breath there. Her breath, fogging the mic with heat. Baseline. Chen said, now the broadcast master. Darla loaded another tape with the deftness of religious rite. The leader tone again. The sharp white that made ghosts appear in the corners of your eyes. At the moment in question, Asha's face on the monitor shifted a pixel fraction, and the sound went flat for a frame. Then, I made it up. The room seemed to lean toward the screen. Overlays clean, Chen whispered, but the gate is dumb. The ghost left fingerprints. Fingerprints are work. Asha said, work means time. Time means pay. Who pays? Darla ejected the tape and closed her hand over it like an old woman securing a clutch. She looked older now than she had 10 minutes ago. Her eyes had water in them. She refused to blink. You're brave, she said, so flat, it wasn't a compliment. Brave gets you fired here. Brave gets you misfiled. I can live with misfiled, Asha said. I can't live with quiet. Darla nodded once. She slid the legal shadow back into its slot and locked the cage. When she turned, she had a small object in her palm. A brass key with a plastic cap, the color of a bruise. The tag read, R5 AUX. I keep this for when the robot lies, she said. Auxiliary room is through the maintenance door. You didn't hear that. You didn't see me. You'll lose your job, Damien said. Darla closed his hand around the key. Her fingers were paper dry and iron strong. I turned 59 last week, she said. I can lose things. I'd like to keep a spine. They walked the service corridor, the brass key warm in Asha's glove. The maintenance door didn't want them. The key persuaded. Inside, the air was warmer, full of dust, and the sweet staleness of insulation. A lone fluorescent tube buzzed above an island of racks. It flickered, then steadied, as if waking. Chen produced a tiny tool kit from his backpack. He opened a faceplate with 2 clicks and attached a laptop to a port with the reverence of a doctor finding a vein. Data poured bright into his machine. He worked in silence, lower lip caught in his teeth. Asha listened to the buzz and her own heart. Logs, he said. Internal. Unpruned. E7 is a process user that changes masks. Someone behind it. A tunnel from outside. A name. The fluorescent flickered again. Footsteps approached the maintenance door. Slow, not trying to be quiet. The key turned in the outer lock. Asha tasted lemon soap and metal. The blue of early morning had become the sterile white of a tube light. The door swung inward. A man filled the frame. T. Loosened. Eyes clear. Badge turned backward on his belt. Pierce Quan E. One on the sheet. Looked at the racks. Looked at the cable in Chen's hand. Looked at the key in Asha's. You shouldn't be here, he said, voice gentle as a scalpel. Room 5 doesn't forgive. Pierce didn't raise his voice. He stepped inside, closed the door with his heel, and took in the room like a surveyor rack. Cable, the flicker that made everyone look tired. Unplug, he said to Chen, slowly. Keep the drive mounted. Chen froze, fingers on the cable hood. We're not damaging anything. That's the problem, Pierce said. You might prove something. He moved closer. His tie smelled faintly of clove and stale coffee. The badge on his belt flashed E1 when the fluorescent stuttered. Asha squared to him. We're documenting sabotage. But Vort, he said. Lawyers taste it and think invoices. He stopped by the bench, eyes scanning the laptop screen. The internal log scrolled pale as fish bones. Iahu masqueradas. A tunnel process with a time-stamped birth at 02 Shiryi, Sushaba. The night the clip went weird. You know, Asha said, I know servers. Pierce said, and how people try to live inside them. You're running it. Damien asked. Pierce's smile didn't travel to his eyes. If I were, you wouldn't be here. The fluorescent gave a sick pulse. Somewhere a compressor kicked. The room breathed back. Asha held out the brass key. We use this, we'll log it. We'll return it. I never saw it, he said. You never saw me. She didn't move. Someone piggybacked your process account. Pierce nodded once. E7 was built for fire. We get breaking news at 2 a.m. We yank a shadow. Someone copied the tool and hid behind it. You can trace the hand, Chen said. The tunnel's named. Pierce leaned over Chen's shoulder without touching him. It's a hash, not a signature. Hashes don't invent themselves, Asha said. Neither do motives, he said. A phone vibrated in Pierce's pocket. He silenced it without looking. His face closed for a breath. A private door. Then he stepped back from the bench. Palms up. You want to pull a thread, he said. Fine. But you don't yank in here. Then, where? Asha asked. In a room with walls that don't remember, he said. And no cameras. He pointed to the one black dome in the corner, the eye above the racks. Asha hadn't clocked it. It wore dust like a veil. Pierce took a small object from his pocket, a plastic plug the size of a thumbnail. He pressed it into a port under the dome. The red LED winked out. Maintenance, he said. Camera test. 2 minutes. Chen's hands moved. He mirrored the current terminal buffer to a USB with a hardware write blocker the size of a cassette. A click. A blue LED. A progress bar crawling. Chain, he said. Asha. Sign. She printed her name on the form and wrote the device ID off the blocker's sticker. Ling C. Ling R. From R5 aux log server. To Chen Li. She signed again under received. Initials tight and angled. Pierce watched the strokes of her pen. You've done this before. Not here, she said. I guessed. He checked the door. Ear tilted for foot traffic. You're making enemies. Not my first suit, Damian muttered. Pierce's gaze clicked to him. You're loud online. You think that helps her? Damian bristled. Truth likes an audience. Truth likes oxygen, Pierce said. Audience is a spark near a gas leak. The blocker beeped. Transfer complete. Chen ejected with a small ceremony. He slid the drive into a clear pouch and sealed it. He initialed the seal and kissed the Sharpie cap like a superstition. Done, he said. Not yet, Pierce said. He picked up a wrench from the bench, turned, and loosened a conduit coupling near the floor. Inside, bundled Ethernet glowed with a faint green heartbeat. Pierce slid a mirror on a telescoping wand into the cavity, angled it, and checked something Asha couldn't see. Fiber tap, he said. Installed last month. Facilities says it's for telemetry. The other end goes somewhere with new carpet. Upstairs, Asha said. Higher, he said. He tightened the coupling and wiped the wrench on a rag. He slipped the little camera plug out and pocketed it. The dome's red eye returned to life. Walk out like you belong, he said. Don't sign anything extra. Don't talk to the guy with the crossword. Raoul, Damien said. Pierce didn't blink. Everyone has a name. Don't use them. He opened the door. The corridor light was softer, like the building exhaled. He didn't look back. You're helping, Asha said. I'm delaying, he said. It's not the same. Why? She asked. That's for later, he said, and was gone. They moved. The brass key sat heavy in Asha's pocket, warmer now, as if it had chosen a body. She could feel the outline through fabric, metal against thigh, a bruise brewing. At the vault, Darla was at her table again, the pencil tucked back behind her ear, the gloves an extra layer of skin. She didn't look up. "Clock says you didn't go anywhere," she murmured. "We were never born," Damien said. Darla's eyes lifted then, quick and sharp. "Jokes make holes. You'll trip." Asha returned the key under her palm with the same care you'd give a sleeping bird. Darla covered it without moving anything else, the motion so small it felt like a sigh. "Be careful of that one," she said, chin nudging toward the ceiling. "He believes in machines. They don't love him back." "Pierce?" Asha asked. Darla's mouth twitched. Names again. They turned in their green tags and reclaimed phones like relics. The cinnamon gum guard watched their hands, not their faces. Asha left a second empty line on the sign-out sheet. Habit and hope. Upstairs, the lobby had warmed. Sun leaked into the glass, warming dust motes, dulling screens. Raoul had a new crossword. Different pen couleur. "Find what you needed," he asked. "We found what was there," Asha said. "Deep." He said, "You want a sticker?" Damien smiled despite himself. "Only if it says, 'I survived room 5. Who? Those cost extra." Outside, the light had turned honest. Delivery trucks belched diesel. A man hosed a sidewalk like he was painting it a new day. The air smelled like wet cardboard and hot metal. Asha zipped her jacket against the breeze. She kept the drive in her inside pocket, left of the sternum, where people used to keep folded letters and cigarettes. They didn't talk until they reached the car. Inside, it was warmer and smelled like yesterday's fries. Chen set his backpack in his lap like a dog and hugged it. "We can verify the log at my place," he said. "I'll route through Tor, then air gap before we parse. No cloud. Print hash values," Asha said. "Write them on paper." "Old school," Damien said. "Old school keeps," she said. He turned the key. The engine coughed, then caught. The radio threw static and an ad for orthopedic shoes. He killed it. "Where now?" he asked. "Somewhere ordinary," Asha said. "Noise helps." They chose a laundromat on 11th. Machines thundered. Soap smell wrapped the room, sharp and clean. The coin changer coughed quarters like a slot machine without lights. A TV in the corner ran an infomercial for knives that cut cans. At a back table under a buzzing strip light, Chen set up his laptop on 2 folded T-shirts. He slid the drive into the blocker and fed the cable. The rhythmic slosh of washers made a soft wall around them. Asha kept her back to the door. She watched the front windows fog at the edges. She watched a child drop a sock and stare at it like a moon. She wrote the current time in her notebook and drew a box around it. Lingba, Shizhou. Lines of log filled the screen. Process names, timestamps, user IDs that weren't real people. Chen filtered on the tunnel creation. He ran a quick entropy check that made numbers mean something. "There," he said. "The thread calls to a subdomain that shouldn't exist." He typed. A terminal blinked. He pulled a TXT record. It spat English. "Hillary. Produce. Land. A vanity name. Someone with a sense of humor or a need to be seen. Internal name," he said. "Not public. You'd have to know the convention." Asha felt the old click behind her breastbone, the feeling she used to get when a dead end suddenly grew a window. "Where does it point?" "An internal IP block," Chen said. "It's on a VLAN reserved for executive comms." Damien whistled. "The suite." "Higher," Asha said, hearing Pierce again. "Bored?" Damien asked. "Or legal," she said. She watched the glass door reflect them small. In the reflection, a tall figure paused outside, checking a phone. The reflection's eyes didn't look up. He moved on. Chen dumped the log slice to paper and began printing hashes, reading them aloud so Asha could write. He wrote his initials next to each line. He dated the page with the laundromat's wall clock. Limba, Sancheri. They bagged the sheet like it breathed. Next move. Damien asked. We verify with a neutral. Asha said, someone who can swear the chain. Public notary. He said, not for this. A lab. University or small shop with a clean rep. Howard. Chen said, digital forensics adjunct. He hates corporations with a monk's focus. Call him. She said, they split the task load. With the muscle memory of a kitchen crew, Damien watched the door and the street angles. Chen encrypted a copy for off-site and wrote the passphrase on a plain card that he folded until it felt like a worry stone. Asha photographed the paperwork with her own camera, then printed the photos on the laundromat's novelty printer with a taxi on the margins. She signed the backs like postcards from a dull vacation. Her phone buzzed. A number she didn't have. She let it sing a second. Then she answered. Asha Verma, she said. Silence. Then Pierce's voice, close and far at once. You left a footprint. Where? She said. Lobby camera caught the aux door open. He said. Not the inside. But the timestamp will tell a story if someone wants it to. Who wants it? Legal. He said, and someone who writes emails at 3 a.m. Which one is worse? She asked. Depends who's awake. He said, don't go home. Say that again? Don't go home. He said, deliberate now. Room 5 grows arms. The line clicked. Her screen showed a call length with too many zeros. She looked at the drive in its clear bag, fogged slightly with the difference between laundromat warmth and pocket cold. The washers hummed, somewhere a coin dropped and rolled, circling a metal bowl of a sound until it settled. Outside, a patrol car idled at the curb. Inside, a sock made its own orbit behind thick glass. Asha slid the drive deeper into her jacket. The feeling in her chest wasn't fear, not exactly. It was the sense of a hinge about to take weight. She stood. We move now. To where? Damien asked. To the one place that still cares about paper, she said. The courthouse, he said. Records, she said. They stamp. Stamps survive. They left the washers spinning. The doorbells chimed thinly. The street had brightened a hard day. The patrol car pulled away without looking at them. On the way to the curb, a wind gust lifted a drift of green lint from a trash can, a little cloud of it. And for half a second the world looked like it was full of tags. The records office opened like a stubborn jaw. Frosted glass, brass push bars, a smell of toner and lemon cleaner. The floor tile was government beige. A clock ticked loud enough to measure nerves. Counter 2, Damien said. Asha felt the drive against her ribs as she walked. Left of the sternum, old habit. On the wall, a sign read, Stamp, Requests, Require, Form, R. 117. Someone had underlined require with a thick blue pen until the paper bruised. The clerk at counter 2 wore a cardigan, the color of paper clips. Agnes, per her nameplate, she had kind eyes set under a forehead that had learned to expect stories. You're early, Agnes said. Then we're lucky. Asha said, what's your stamp? Agnes asked. Received, filed, or certified true copy. Received with time, Asha said. Then we'll escalate. Agnes slid a clipboard under the glass. Form R, 117. Reason for request has to be specific. Personal record gets bounced. Chen's pen scratched. He wrote clean block letters that could be read by a tired person. He listed the device ID, the hash value, the hour. He named the laundromat like a church. Asha signed beneath with the calm of someone walking through rain. Already wet, Agnes read the lines with her lips. You're depositing a sealed package. Yes. Asha said, tamper evident. Agnes asked, yes, Chen said, lifting the clear bag so the light caught the holographic seam. He pointed at their initials on the seal. He slid it into a manila envelope and licked the gummed flap, a stubborn taste of library paste and old promises. He pressed the flap flat with the side of his hand. Agnes stamped the flap with a violet circle, filed upon opening by order of clerk. She stamped the front with a time down to the minute. Ling ba, wuxia si. The sound landed like a small gavel. Chain of custody, she asked, almost gently. Asha slid her notebook to the glass. I'll log transfer to your vault. You countersign. Agnes nodded. People think these stamps are just theater, she said, making her A in one stroke. They're anchors. Paper remembers. The door behind them opened. Cold air made the hairs on Asha's wrist lift. A man in a rocker suit scanned the room with the speed of a scanner bed. His hair sat like a helmet. He walked without squeak. He carried a messenger bag that had never known a stain. Ms. Verma, he said, and the room changed size. She turned. The badge clipped to his lapel read, Meredith Vale, General Counsel. The name and the title argued with each other. The eyes did not. Counsel, Asha said. May I, he said, indicating the space beside her like it needed permission to be filled by him. You can stand there, she said. He did. The messenger bag clicked open with a private sound. He pulled a document, clipped with a black jaw that gleamed, Emergency Notice of Preservation, he said. By order of Hayes Media, Legal, you are required to return any and all media derived from company systems. Agnes watched without blinking. Her hand hovered over a stamp like a gunslinger learning patience. We don't accept internal orders here, Agnes said. Meredith smiled at her as if at a child with a flute. Of course, he slid a second document onto the counter. Ex-party application filed at 07. Wushizhou. Judge Morales signed at 08. Shusan. Temporary restraining order. You'll find the language is broad. Agnes read faster than her age. Her eyes snagged on jurisdiction and authority. She aimed a look at Asha, like a question placed on a saucer. Asha kept her voice slow. Counsel, you understand the difference between chain of custody and chain of command. I understand exposure, he said. Yours or ours? She asked. He breathed through his nose. The messenger bag leather creaked. The company is preparing an acquisition. A leak would harm investors, pension funds, the public. We're not the enemy here. You protect a thing, Asha said. We protect proof. Proof of what? He said. You don't even know. A radiator hissed. The clock ticked loud again. In the quiet, a printer across the room began to feed paper like pasta. The building made its own small weather. Asha slid her notebook back. Agnes, we're depositing a sealed package for time-stamping and safekeeping. We aren't seeking certification. We aren't publishing. We aren't violating the TRO. Meredith smiled with only one side of his mouth. We'll see what Morales thinks. Judge Morales likes paper, Agnes said. He clerked for him, Meredith said, as if that were a birthright. He likes precision. Then he'll like this, Chen said, and lifted the manila so the violet circle and the timestamp were visible, the ink still damp. A dark halo. Meredith's eyes flicked to it. He didn't touch. What's in the envelope? Hope, Damien said. Meredith's smile warmed half a degree. You're the activist. I'm the +1, Damien said. Asha faced Meredith. The air between them tightened the way it does before glass breaks. You walked in fast, she said. That was coincidence or surveillance. You've been in journalism, he said. You know, coincidence is a vanity. You're tracking our phones, Chen said. Meredith didn't blink. You came through company security with a borrowed badge this morning. Legal learns words like borrowed before breakfast. Agnes cleared her throat. Counsel, if you intend to serve, serve. If not, you're frightening my clock. Meredith set the TRO on the counter, slid it under the glass. Consider yourself served, he said. Do not disseminate copies, images, or derivatives of any company property. Asha touched the paper with her index finger. The edge cut her skin thoughtlessly. A clean sting. A red bead rose like a period. We'll respond, she said. Do, he said. And Ms. Verma. She waited. Don't mistake procedural cleverness for virtue, he said. She watched him put his jawed clip back in the bag. He left without looking behind. The door sighed shut. Agnes exhaled in a metronome. He talks like a contract smells, she said. Citrus and fear, Damien said. Mostly uppercase, she said. And stamped the manila again, receive. It's filed. Morales can chew it, but he can't erase the clock. Asha's finger left a tiny print of blood on the counter. She wiped it with the corner of her scarf. The spot spread like watercolor and then vanished into the weave. Next step, Chen asked. Adjunct lab. Asha said, if Meredith is moving this fast, someone upstairs is awake. Agnes slid back a small receipt card. It looked like a library due slip. On it, a stamp, a date, a little square for initials. She'd filled the square with an A. If you vanish, Agnes said. The envelope doesn't. Let's try for both, Asha said. Outside. The morning had sharpened to a hard blue. A line of people waited at the public defender's door, jackets too thin for the wind. Someone held a toddler who had learned to chew zipper tags. Asha tucked her sore finger into her palm and felt the pulse in it, a small drum that kept time independent of clocks. Pierce said, don't go home. Damien said, we won't. Asha said, at the curb. A parking officer stood by their car, handheld, angled like a radar gun. She wore a fluorescent vest and an expression that did not feel personal. 3 minutes over, she said, can we fix it? Damien asked, already knowing. She wrote. The ticket slid free with a squeal like a small animal. She tucked it under the wiper and went on. The mundane pressed back. They drove east to the university. Red brick, bare trees, banners for a lecture on climate models that flapped like good intentions. The lab sat in a building that had once been a bank, the vault now a server room. The hallway smelled like dry coffee and carpet glue. Howard opened the door before they knocked. Stringy hair, crewneck sweater, an old wedding ring he hadn't removed from habit. He wore the world's smallest hearing aid and a t-shirt that said, Forensics, we make the dead talk. Chen, he said, you brought friends. This is Asha. Damien. Howard clocked the clear pout, the manila copy stamp visible through the envelope like a birthmark. He nodded once. Inside, the lab was tidy in the way of someone who knows where the dust hides. He had a Faraday bag folded like a napkin. He had a whiteboard with hash functions written in blue and green, arrows everywhere. He had a plastic bin labeled stickers, no. Asha handed the drive over with 2 hands. We maintain chain. Your initials here, time with your wall clock. This stays in your vault unless a court says otherwise. Dull. Howard said, I like dull. He wrote H.J. on the bag and the form. Block letters, 1 pen. You get 2 hours before a faculty meeting, he said. Then I become a bureaucrat. It hurts. He imaged the drive to 2 sterile targets through a hardware duplicator that had its own fan hum, deeper than the room. He read hashes out loud. Asha wrote them. Chen mirrored them. Damien watched the window and the reflection like an extra monitor. Lo says, Tun le tu, Shiryi, Sishaba, Howard said, cross-check to NTP to keep clocks honest. He typed with 3 fingers and a thumb. He compared the system time to an atomic reference. "You're within 400 milliseconds," he said. "That's good enough to ruin someone's morning." Asha stepped to the whiteboard and touched the blue circle around SHA 256. "You'll be able to testify. If they put me in a suit," he said, "I'll shave." The door buzzed behind them, 3 short, 1 long. Not a knock, a bad rhythm. Howard looked up. "We're not expecting deliveries." Damien moved to the side, half behind a file cabinet. Asha flattened her hand to the drive case on the bench, feeling the hum through the plastic like a living thing. The buzzer went again. "Facilities." A voice called. "Annual fire inspection." Howard clicked his intercom. "We had it last month." "Surprise OD," the voice said. "New checklist." Asha looked at Damien. He shook his head. "Too neat." "Too soon." Howard leaned to the mic. "Show your badge to the camera." He clicked the feed on a small screen. The hallway appeared, fisheye and pale. 2 men in navy with clipboards looked up into the lens with polite smiles that didn't reach anything. "No," Howard said softly. He powered down the maglock on his side and slid the deadbolt instead. "The old bank bones came in handy." "Not a good time," he said into the mic. "Come back with cookies." Silence. Then a harder knock. The sound hollowed the room. On the monitor, 1 man took a step back and made a call. Shoulders canted like a whisper. The other looked directly at the lens and didn't blink for 3 seconds. Asha felt her finger throb. She looked at the little circle of dried blood on her scarf. She thought of Pierce saying rooms grow arms. "Howard," she said, "can the bench run headless? It can sulk on its own," he said. Then, "Sulk," she said. "We're leaving by the loading dock." He nodded. "Take the mirror image on target 2. I'll keep one. If they serve me, I'll smile and teach them vocabulary." He handed her the second target in a bag already labeled. He stamped the seal with his lab's date stamp, ink smudging on plastic in a way that would make some attorney crazy. 2 hours, he said again. "Go be fast." They moved through the back, past empty racks, and a mural of an old vault door. Someone had painted as a joke. The dock smelled like damp cardboard and rubber bands. Asha listened for shoes that clicked. A gust lifted grit and carried it into the light. For a second, the air glittered like everything was made of filing. Then it settled back to dust. They cut across the loading dock, through breath that turned white in the air. The ramp's metal ridges bit rubber soles. Somewhere a forklift beeped, patient as a heart monitor. The roll-up door was stuck halfway, light striping the concrete like a barcode. "Left," Damien said. They slipped under the door and into a parking lane where a catering van idled, back doors yawning. Racks of empty sheet pans rattled, a smell of onions and bleach. Steam curled from a coffee urn like a genie that had given up on wishes. The driver's cap barely tilted. "You late," he said. "We're nobody," Asha said. "That I can carry," he said, and flicked his thumb. "Get down. Don't scratch the pans." They crouched between aluminum towers. The fan lurched, then slid into traffic with a soft animal growl. From under the racks, the city skimmed by in a flicker book. Curb, foot, curb, foot. Asha steadied the sealed bag at her chest. The plastic warmed under her coat, a living thing learning her pulse. At the third turn, the driver laughed once. "We don't get fire inspections on Thursdays," he said. "Nice try, though. Appreciate the ride." Chen said. "I appreciate cash," the driver said. Damien passed 220s across a floor that felt like a cutting board. "For your honesty," he said. "I'm a caterer," the driver said. "I lie for a living." He braked behind a strip mall with 3 faded flags and 1 bright nail salon. 2 minutes. Then your salad. They dropped to asphalt that shone with oil rainbows. Asha scanned the blank backs of stores, the dumpsters, the angles where men wait. No shoes clicked, no door breathed. She exhaled through her nose. The breath felt clean and stubborn. Notary first, she said. The store smelled like cardboard and toner, and a pair someone forgot. A bell chimed in a minor key. Behind glass, a woman with a bun the size of a fist looked up and didn't bother to smile. We need an affidavit, Asha said, time sensitive. Everything is, the woman said, and slid a form. Sign where you intend to mean it. They drafted in the corner at a counter with a nick that had the shape of a small country. Asha wrote the facts by hand. Date, place, device ID, hash, chain from lab to bag. She added a line beneath, I declare under penalty of perjury that these statements are true. She heard the weight in each word. It settled on the page like a coat. IDs, the woman said. They presented licenses that were legal but not current on haircuts. The woman looked between faces and photographs until a small gate inside her dropped. She stamped the affidavit with a red seal that smelled faintly of rubber and lemon. The press left an embossed circle like a full moon under skin. You want copies? She asked. 2, Asha said. 3, Damien said. 4, Chen said. Because superstition wears different clothes under stress. They paid in cash from a pocket envelope labeled, only if dumb. The clerk counted the bills with a rhythmic lick of her thumb, dry as paper. She slid the copies into a heavy sleeve with a peel and stick lip out front. The sky had gone a colder blue. A leaf skated the lot and pinned itself under the tire of a car that would not move for hours. Asha checked the mirror in the nail salon window. They were 3 ordinary reflections with a single extra shadow half a beat behind. Right, she said. They cut into the alley and climbed a narrow exterior stair that had once been painted red. On the landing, a woman in a gray suit waited with her jacket unbuttoned and her scarf knotted like she'd tied it running. She wore flats meant for speed and a badge lanyard she'd tucked into her blouse like a secret. You're late, she said. Blame the salad. Damien said. She didn't laugh. 2 minutes. Namas, Millie Cho, Ortega's office. Asha knew the council member's reputation. Cameras loved him. Ethics did not. Millie's eyes did not match any of his photos. They were tired and precise. How deep are you? Millie asked. Enough to make council sweat, Asha said. Millie scanned the bag in Asha's hands without letting her focus stick. She kept her voice level. Morales got a call at 7 from a man who's never dialed numbers himself. Who? Chen asked. Bradford's people. She said. They used a foundation line. Everyone's a philanthropist until discovery. Judge took the TRO. Asha said. Head did. Millie said. He also asked his clerk to pull your old cases. He wants to know if you grandstand. He can read, Asha said. Millie looked at her for a beat. Tell me the short version. The tunnel shows media assets moved off network to a shell controlled by a charity arm. It intersects with payroll data masked as vendor services. There's cash. There's a list. Names, Millie asked. We don't say names on landings, Asha said. Millie nodded. She glanced down into the lot as if reading a clock, only she could see. I can get you 24 hours of quiet, she said. After that, people talk. Why help? Damian asked. Millie rubbed her own wrist, thumb at pulse. Ortega built his office on good press, and donors who schedule manicures together, Hayes calls both. If they're laundering influence through charity, it eats us too. I'm choosing the smaller fire. That makes you a gray hat, Damien said. It makes me unemployed if you quote me, Millie said. I'll send you a burner route. Don't sleep in the same bed twice. She handed Asha a small padded mailer. It was already addressed, already stamped with a metered strip and a date and a smile from a cartoon eagle. The return address was a library branch that had closed 2 years ago. What is it? Chen asked. An insurance policy, Millie said. If you drop it in a white box, someone in records will scan the code and forget the envelope, and a copy of whatever is inside will arrive in my office without a signature. Bureaucracy can be trained like a dog. Asha slipped the second mirrored target into the mailer, the seal pressed down with a rip of paper teeth. She liked the sound. It said done without bragging. 24 hours. Millie said again, be kinder to them than they would be to you. Asha watched her go. The scarf's knot hit her collarbone like a punctuation mark. On the way down, Millie never looked back. Good habits saved lives. They took the back stairs to the street and kept moving. The mirror in the nail salon window offered a new shadow. Different shoes. Same tempo. Decoy, Asha said. Damien nodded. He pulled the old recorder from his jacket, matte black metal, the one Asha carried as a talisman when interviews went bad. It had been her father's, a hard rectangle that still remembered cassettes with tiny spools like eyes. She had rewound it 1,000 nights, until the whir was the sound. Sleep made. I'll take it, Damien said. No, Asha said. He watched her a second, then held out his hand. She didn't move. It's an object, he said. It's a spine, she said. Chen cut the space between them with his palm. We can argue after we live. Asha slid the recorder into a pocket of the decoy messenger bag. She added a weighted stapler and a pack of legal envelopes. She left the bag's zipper open a half-inch, like a promise the city could steal. She felt her throat thicken and willed her face to stay flat. They walked into the crosswalk as a black SUV nosed the corner. No plates front, windows gray. The grille smiled without humor. At the far curb, Asha loosened her grip and let the messenger strap slide down her arm in what she wanted to look like accident. It thumped to concrete. The SUV rolled past, slow as a hand on a wall. The passenger window lowered an inch. A camera lens blinked. Then the rear wheel lurched left, caught the strap, and dragged. The bag jerked, spun, and popped. The recorder shot free. It hit the curb with a sound like glass, remembering how to be sand. She swallowed it. The SUV accelerated. The strap snapped. The bag flipped and landed soft against a storm drain that smelled like pennies. Damien held her shoulder just above the bone. Not a question, not a comfort, a post. It's gone, she said. I know, he said. She crouched. The recorder lay on its face, backplate cracked. A cassette door sprung open. The tiny spools had unspooled. Magnetic tape glistened on wet concrete, slick as seaweed, the brown wound unwinding into shine. It blew once in a stray wind, then clung to itself like a stubborn thought. She didn't touch it. Her hands stayed still at her sides. A bird called from a wire high and indifferent. Chen picked up the bag. He shook out the stapler, and it clacked like a joke that stayed gentle. He looked at Asha and then looked away. We keep moving, she said. They moved. Another block, another door, through a bodega, where incense threaded the air and plantains stacked in a green pyramid pretended stability, out to a side street that sang with bus brakes. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She thumbed it open with the same decisiveness she used for fire alarms. A text only. You have company. West camera. She looked up. A streetlight crown held a gray globe of a camera domed against weather. It faced the crosswalk they had just used. Asha pictured the SUV's nose, the bag, the small violence. She pictured a feed going somewhere that wasn't a city basement. She typed, "Who are you?" 3 dots. Then, Millie said west. Check municipal. They rent cloud space from haze. A pause like a breath held underwater. Then, they're watching you on your own block. New plan. Asha said, we don't go home. Damien said, we go loud. She said, Chen lifted an eyebrow. How loud? On record, she said, and felt the word cost. We stopped giving them rooms to close. Damien exhaled. Lose the last of your quiet. Quiet isn't subtle, she said. It's consent. He nodded. Call Pierce. She called. The line picked up with breath and the scrape of a chair leg. You cut it close. Pierce said. They broke something. Asha said. I'm sorry, he said. Me too, she said. Can you get us 5 minutes at City Hall with someone who still knows what a press conference is? On a Friday. On a Friday, she said. I'll trade favors I can't return. Pierce said, wear a jacket that eats microphone. She ended the call and closed her eyes once. When she opened them, the tape on the curb was still there. An artery pulled apart, gleaming in the weak sun. They moved again. The notary seal in Asha's bag scratched its circle against the folder, with a sound like a small saw. She liked it. It kept a beat. At the corner, an old man with a broom swept grit into lines that the wind would undo in an hour. He looked at the strip of tape spooled across the gutter and prodded it with the bristle tip until it settled. He didn't glance up. Objects are stubborn, Damien said. So are we, Asha said. Across the street, a kid pressed his mitten to a window and left a clear circle through fog. Inside, a goldfish turned twice in a square tank and paused at the glass with its mouth opening and closing like a camera shutter. The city kept breathing. They tucked into the stream and let it move them. The courthouse clock chimed the quarter hour, a small metallic hymn. Somewhere, a server wrote a log line with a time that could be measured. Somewhere, a camera turned and caught the empty crosswalk and the broken shell of a thing that had once been a voice. Asha walked faster. The tape stayed behind, dark and thin and glinting, a ribbon in dirty water, unwinding to the drain. They hit the marble steps at City Hall with their coats still damp from the air. The stone held last night's cold like a grudge. Reporters had begun to congeal at the foot of the stairs, tripods sprouting like silver-legged spiders, parabolas yawning at the sky. The wind made flags crack. Asha smelled burnt coffee and wet wool and copper from the penny. Someone pressed into the railing for luck. Pierce jogged up, cheeks wind-bitten, lanyard flapping. Podium's ours. For 5, he said. Then a committee chair wants cameras. He smells blood. Whose? Damien asked. Everybody's, Pierce said. Inside the rotunda, a security guard wanded their bags with the grace of a priest. The wand chirped over the notary seal. He raised an eyebrow, then let them pass. The echo under the dome made whispers taller. A clerk pushed a rolling lectern that had seen 1,000 promises. Microphones bloomed a municipal one with a dinged emblem. 3 local stations. A podcast name, Asha. Didn't recognize. Statement only, Pierce said under his breath. No Q&A unless you like knives. We're past liking anything, Asha said. She laid out props. Without calling them props, affidavit, copies, a 1-page chain of custody that fit in a palm. She smoothed the edges with the heel of her hand. The paper felt heavy but honest. It had an embossed circle that caught light like a coin sunk in ice. 2 minutes, Pierce said, then added softer, You good? No, she said. Yes. The lights blinked red. Asha stepped up. The podium smelled like lemon oil and a decade of anxiety. She took the municipal mic because it carried through old plaster without static. My name is Asha Rao, she said. I'm an investigator with an independent firm. This morning we filed a verified affidavit with the clerk regarding a covert data tunnel routed from a publicly subsidized network into a private foundation account. We're here to protect evidence. And people, a camera motor word. Someone coughed the way a judge clears a throat before duty. She kept it clean. Dates, times, devices labeled by serial, not brand. The fact the mirrored drive had been hashed in duplicate at 0841 against the lab's air-gapped machine. The hash printed and sealed, the seal number read out now like a prayer. She held it to the glare. The raised ink flashed and then dulled. "We sought a temporary restraining order for preservation," she said. "We obtained it." An hour later, a surveillance vehicle tailed us. A decoy bag was taken. A personal recorder was destroyed. Her mouth thinned around the word. "We didn't retaliate. We documented." She put her palm flat on the affidavit, felt the bump of the embosser like a pulse. "I'm placing a copy of this chain, with attachments, into the clerk's timestamp box. Another has been transmitted via certified mail to council oversight." She didn't look at Millie in the back. She didn't have to. Her eyes scanned faces. The hunger in them was even practiced. One reporter raised a hand anyway. "Name names," he said. "We'll name systems," she said. "Names will follow when protection is in place." "Protection for who?" a woman asked. "For the ones who built it," Asha said. "And the ones under it." The flashing phones painted her skin a colder color. She stepped back before anyone decided she'd stepped forward too far. Paper into the slot. The timestamp machine clunked and spat a tiny red LED that read 11. Ling San. Sir Luke. She slid the copy into the metal throat and watched the rollers take it like a patient animal eating a leaf. "Cut feed," Pierce hissed. They pivoted toward the side hall. The echo swallowed the press in 3 long breaths. Asha felt the sag in her knees and locked them. Damien steered with his elbow. The side door opened onto a corridor lit by bulbs the city had bought on sale. A marshal in a brown suit waited with a folder. He had the face of a man who felt time the way other people felt weather. "For you," he said. Pierce took it, skimmed, blanched. "Emergency motion," he said. "Opposing counsel wants to dissolve the TRO, alleging grandstanding, alleging compromised evidence chain by theatrics." Asha sniffed the paper. "Tuner, a trace of someone's cologne." The caption read, "Bradford Foundation Vive, City of Harbor." The judge's initials sat in the corner like a dare. "When?" she asked. "Now," the marshal said. "Judge Morales will hear brief argument at 11:30 in 4B. "Of course he will," Damien said. "He likes a dramatic lunch." Asha felt her teeth touch. "We go," she said. In the elevator, the smell switched to dust in wiring and the sour ghost of old sweat. A poster for a flu clinic peeled from a corkboard. The bell dinged, polite as a concierge. 4B was half full. Wood pews, a stenographer in a sweater with daisies stitched at the collar. The court's seal above the bench stared like a sun. Morales slid in from chambers with his robe unzipped an inch. He wore a tie the color of a fast car. He didn't look at them yet. He looked at the clock and then at his clerk. "On the record," he said, "the Foundation's lawyer sleek, silver streak. At temple, watch heavy rose, with a practiced concern. Your Honor, the TRO must be vacated. The movements have already publicized alleged evidence, drawing attention, inviting spoliation, and contaminating any subsequent chain. They conducted a press event on the courthouse steps. We conducted a preservation press," Asha said under her breath. "Mr. Hyatt," the judge said, dry. Hyatt gestured toward the gallery where a man in a navy blazer held a tablet half raised like an offering. "We have exhibits, social media video. Ms. Rao placing documents in a box, her colleagues stating they will go loud. And Mr. Hyatt," Morales said again. "Sit." Hyatt sat. His watch threw a small square of light on the council table, as if it were a lighthouse for money. "Ms. Rao," Morales said. "Why?" Because the tunnel runs through public fiber, she said, standing. The wood under her palms was warm. Because we were tailed. Because a device was destroyed. We used a municipal process that time-stamps entries and preserves without our custody. Your affidavit is clean, Morel said. Yes, she said. We have hash matches printed and sealed before public notice. The notary is independent. The clerk's stamp shows 11. Ling San, your recorder, broken, she said, and kept her face. It contained interviews, unrelated to this matter, and decades of personal tape. That's my loss, not the court's. Morales looked at her for a long 3 beats. Los is not hermana, he said. Then, almost gently, but noted, Hyatt rose again with a new smile. Your Honor, our client also submits that any alleged tunnel is a lawful off-site backup contracted to improve resiliency. There is no showing of criminality, merely a technical misunderstanding, sensationalized by a disgruntled consultant. Disgruntled, Damian murmured. I prefer properly gruntled. And Asha kept her eyes forward. We can show routing through a foundation server that co-locates with entities receiving city contracts. She said, we subpoena the vendor. Their invoice lists charitable outreach, data migration. Do you have that invoice? Morales asked. Chen slid it from his folder like a magician making a card appear. Stamped and Bates labeled, he said. Asha took it to the bailiff. The paper passed through 3 hands like a relay, chain of custody in real time. The clerk eyed the corner and whispered the number to the stenographer, who typed it with neat fingers. Morales read. His mouth made a line. The vendor is Hayes Cloud, he said. Silence did a slow roll across the pews. And Hayes Cloud, he asked. Asha's breath shortened, subsidiary of Hayes Holdings. Their philanthropic arm is the Bradford Foundation. There it was. Not a name, a system. The daisies on the stenographer's sweater suddenly looked like targets. Morales placed the invoice flat, as if leveling a painting. 2-row stands, he said, narrowed. No ex parte communications. No more press theatrics in this building. Counsel for the Foundation will produce the contract with Hayes Cloud by close of business and preserve all logs. Ms. Rao will deliver a copy of the hash log to Chambers under seal. We will reconvene Monday at 10. If anyone so much as breathes on a shredder, I hold you in contempt. Hyatt opened his mouth. Morales raised a palm. Don't, he said. You had your wind. Gavel. Note hard. Enough. They filed out with the small dignity courthouse halls require. In the corridor, Pierce exhaled like a man stepping out of a car accident. That could have gone south, he said. It will, Asha said, just not today. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown. She let it ring once, and then answered with her name like a question that already knew the answer. Asha Rao, a voice said. Smooth, confident as glass. Ethan Hayes. She stepped aside to a corner where a radiator ticked. The heat smelled like cooked dust and old paint. Busy day for philanthropy, she said. He laughed once. We should talk, he said. You're building a story with the wrong villain. Bradford funds good. The city drags its feet. If you want reform, stop burning the house. You rent the house to yourself, she said. You don't know the half, he said, and she believed him. There's an acquisition in motion. If your affidavit freezes my logs, you tank 800 union jobs, maybe 1,000. Do you want that headline? She felt the old recorder in her chest, where a bruise would be. I want the truth, she said. The truth is messy, he said. Meet me. 1 hour. Hotel Willoughby, 2nd floor lounge. No lawyers. Bring your conscience. The line clicked. No goodbye. Damien read her face the way paramedics read scene safety. Who? Hayes, she said. Pierce swore into his scarf. If he's calling you, he's bleeding somewhere. Chen frowned. It smells like bait. It smells like information, Asha said. She checked the courthouse clock. Shiyi. Wu Shaba. The second hand jerked forward with intention. Don't go alone, Damien said. I never do, she said. Outside, the wind had shifted. The flags now pulled the other way, snapping like reprimans. She tucked the sealed hash log deeper into her bag, where the notary circle rasped its small reassurance. On the steps, a boy in a red jacket skated his fingers along the railing, and then looked back at the building with a mix of awe and boredom. Across the plaza, a white mailbox waited with a small blue eagle smiling at nothing. She had a second padded envelope in her pocket. The insurance Millie had handed over on a stair with her scarf tight at her throat. Asha pulled it out. The adhesive was strong. It made a sound when she pressed it down that reminded her of snow under a heel. She slipped it into the slot. The flap hissed, then thunked. It was gone. Hotel, Damien said. Hotel, she echoed. They crossed the street when the light changed. The crosswalk's paint scuffed by 1,000 decisions far down the block. A camera on a streetlight swiveled a few degrees, casual as a man checking his watch. The lens was black and glassy and patient. It watched the empty steps long after they'd turned the corner. The Willoughby's second-floor lounge wore its afternoon light like a pressed shirt. Brass rails, carpet with a navy chevron that made people walk straighter than they were. Asha clocked the smell, first oiled wood and grapefruit peel from the bartender's palms, and then the hum of an old compressor behind the bar, a steady undernote that made conversation feel private without needing to be. Ethan Hayes was already there. He'd chosen a corner banquette with his back to a wall-sized mirror. He'd chosen it because he was used to angles and threats. He was in charcoal and a knit tie, no jacket. His phone lay face down, screen toward the leather. He didn't stand when she approached, but his eyes did a small, appraising sweep. It ended at her hands. No bag on the table, he said. It's not a purse, she said, sliding into the opposite seat. It's chain management. Same difference, he said, and half smiled. You brought your conscience. It doesn't fit in the bag, she said. The banquette's leather was cold through her coat. She kept her shoulders to the room, a small camera in a smoke detector above the ice, well pointed nowhere and everywhere. A server placed water in cut crystal. Ice cracked. Condensation filmed the glass like breath on a mirror. Ethan didn't touch his. He tapped once on the table with a fingernail as if testing grain. You chose to go public, he said. You made it a story. That story can burn down things you don't want burned. Then show me the fire break, she said. He slid an envelope across with 2 fingers. It was the kind that comes with a polite wedding invite. Heavy cream. The flap closed with a square of black wax, impressed with an H that looked like rails. No devices, he said. No opening here. If you open it, you accept that you will keep my name out of the affidavit until Monday. Lawyers love conditions, she said. I like outcomes, he said. He leaned back, the mirror catching his jawline at a slightly uglier angle. Inside, access logs from Hayes Cloud, a statement of work addendum you will not find in the city file, because it never went through procurement. A one-sheeter that explains why the data was mirrored, and who signed the approval that made it look like charity. Signed by. He looked at her like she'd ordered dessert before reading the menu. A deputy chief technology officer who wants to be mayor, he said. He'll call it resiliency and shake 1,000 hands. And Bradford, she asked. Bradford funds the momentum, he said. He likes to be the hand. He hates being the glove. He glanced at the bartender polishing a glass to a high, clean ring. He'll cut me loose if the acquisition doesn't clear next week. 800 jobs, maybe more. You pin the foundation with criminal intent. You freeze my escrow. And I am the headline that says you killed payroll. That's not mine to carry, she said. But I know it lands. He watched her fingers, not her face. You think I don't, he said, voice lower. You think I started Haze Cloud because I like corporate brochures. I built a platform that keeps trauma nurses from re-entering the same meds 5 times, while a kid bleeds 3 doors down. But the money sits in foundations and boards and dinners where men say words like impact and mean tax math. I need their checks. I don't need their hands in my logs. The compressor clicked off. The sudden quiet pressed at their table. A soft vacuum. Asha lifted her water and set it down again just to give the room a sound. You called me to bargain, she said. What's the part where I get something I want? Proof that the tunnel predates me, he said. That it was built by the city, then left in my rack when they outsourced. Because everybody got tired and nobody wanted to pay an in-house team. Proof that your leak is not mine. Leak, she repeated. He tilted his head. Your affidavit made it to my general counsel 20 minutes before you filed. He said, we had the red lines. We had the language about the chain. We knew you'd go to the clerk. We had a camera on the steps before your shoes hit them. Asha kept the stillness like you keep a spoon level. From who? Ethan's smile barely moved. From whatever you call your PR conscience. Pierce doesn't leak, she said. I didn't say Pierce, he said. But if you're asking me for a name, I'll tell you what my logs show. The dock properties on your press draft carry thermal metadata from a machine that reports to an IP block registered to Harbor Communications. The last save before you printed came from P. Cranford, which could be Pierce, could be Paula, could be a ghost your IT guy, named to make himself laugh. I'm not your therapist. I'm your source. She let the anomaly slide through her like a sliver of winter. You want time, she said. I want a lane, he said. You keep Monday. You file your hash to Chambers. You don't blast my logs on those steps again and make them alterable by public pressure. You give me the weekend to move my people out of the blast zone. And if I see criminality, she asked, then you do your job, he said. And I do mine. I distance. I burn Bradford politely at a board. He thinks he invented distance. He didn't. A girl at the bar laughed, high and bright, like a glass struck with a ring. Asha watched it ripple the surface of the room and settle on the bartender's face. He smiled, because tips were a system too. Ethan finally touched his water. One sip. He grimaced as if he'd bitten pith. You have a tell, by the way, he said. Do I? You touch whatever has an official stamp, he said, glancing at her bag. Clerk slot. Lapseal. You put a hand on it like it's a pulse. She didn't look down. And you call strangers by their first names like, we'll be on panels, she said. That's a tell. He spread his hands. Panels are for people who survived their own stories, he said. I'm still in mine. He stood without scraping the banquette. Money taught you to move without noise. He left cash under the water like a person who didn't like receipts. At the end of the aisle, he paused. He didn't turn back. 2 more things, he said, eyes on the exit. Your recorder. That wasn't Street Kids. Your car has a new lens in the driver's side mirror, and Bradford's lawyer filed an emergency ex parte at 2 p.m. to ask for a bench conference Monday, with no transcript. If your judge says yes, ask him to announce the seal on the record and say the docket number out loud. He hates being maneuvered. Give him a way to hate it in public. He left. The door breathed him out. The compressor kicked back on. Asha sat with the envelope and the cold water and the square of cash. She wasn't allowed to touch. She watched the wax seal. The H had clean lines and a hairline crack through one leg. Imperfect. She liked that. She slid the envelope into the bag without breaking it. She left a tip she couldn't afford and walked out past a mirror that added a little more tired to her face. Outside, the September light had turned brittle. The sidewalk ate heels and secrets with equal hunger. Down the block, a white Camry idled too long at a hydrant. Nobody in it. Asha gave it her shoulder and moved on. At the curb, Damien stood with 2 coffees and a paper bag of something warm. "You were 5 minutes over," he said. "Do I file a missing persons?" "File a hunger mitigation," she said, taking a coffee. It tasted of cardboard and care. "We need the lab. Chen's there," he said. I told him to prep the air gap. The lab was a sublet in a building that had been a piano warehouse. The hall smelled of varnish ghosts and someone's burned toast. Inside, they kept the air dry and the temperature at 65 because circuits liked brisk. Chen had already pulled on nitrile gloves and laid out antistatic mats like placemats at a careful dinner. "No open sip by the table," he said, nodding at her coffee. "Noted," she said. She set it on a file cabinet that hummed softly with old secrets. She placed the envelope on the mat. Damien read her face the way he read a scene for exits. "Open it," he asked. "Open it," she said. Chen broke the wax with a plastic wedge. 90°. No tear. He slid out 3 items. A sheaf of printed logs with time-stamp columns, fat as well water. A 2-page SAO addendum with signatures in a pen that bled a little blue at the turns. And a single-page memo labeled Justification Dr. Mirror, typed in a municipal font that tried very hard not to be a font. "Photo and scan," Asha said, the flatbed word. Chen ran the logs through a copier, set to no memory retention, with the back panel physically taped to paranoia that had saved them once, and once was enough to make it religion. "Hash," Damien asked. "Hash the scans," she said. "Print the SHA. 256. Initial. The strip. Seal." They moved like they'd rehearsed in a smaller room when nobody cared. The printer spat a neat line of alphanumerics, brutal and precise. Chen initialed the bottom. The notary seal from this morning lay on the corner of the table, cold and circular. Asha didn't touch it. She felt its presence anyway. She slid the SOW under the light. The signature block carried a scrawl. She knew the deputy CTO who liked ribbon cuttings and cameras. Next to it, a countersign from E. Hayes done in a flatter hand. She let the data do its small electricity along the nerves in her forearms. Truth had a feel. "Properties," she said. Chen blinked. "On paper. On this," she said, holding up a stapled print of a word-processed page. Tucked in the back a cover letter for the addendum. It wasn't much. A paragraph about expediency. A line about non-profit partnerships benefiting the citizenry, but it had been printed from somewhere. Sometimes people printed before they scrubbed. Sometimes they forgot that printers remember. He fed the sheet through the office scanner with its network entirely disconnected and its USB logging to a read-only stick. He ran the extract on the air-gap laptop and pulled metadata that lives in margins. Nobody reads. "Okay," he said, eyebrows edging up. Author tag. P. Cranford. Last saved. Today. Sure. Sushi. Application. Word 16. Sishalu. Printer model. Harbor Communications. 3rd floor Lexmark. 620. Damien's coffee made a soft, unhappy sound in his throat. "Pierce," he said. Aisha didn't speak. She looked at the tag like she might look at a hair under a microscope that matched a crime she didn't want solved. Pierce had keys to the office. Pierce had said hours for 5 on the steps. Pierce had a swipe badge that got him into City Hall without signing the visitor's book. Could be a decoy, Chen said. Gentle. Could be a mirror of a mirror. Could be that whoever sent this wanted me to think, she said. The lab went quiet in that way. That makes every little sound a bell. The compressor in the mini fridge clicked. A thread pulled on the corner of the antistatic mat. Somewhere downstairs, someone ran 3 scales on a piano and stopped before the 4th. The door opened on a soft rush of hallway cool. Pierce stood there with a white paper bag. The top rolled down, grease spotting through like a constellation. I brought empanadas, he said, because we won, and then didn't, and that's a 2 empanada situation. His eyes took in the scene, the open envelope, the seal's broken H, the way both men stood like furniture, fastening itself to the floor. He smiled with his mouth and not his eyes. What? He asked. Why are you all looking at me like the dog brought in a human foot? Asha set the single page down. She placed her palm flat on the table to keep it from moving. The paper felt like a small, stubborn animal trying not to be read. Close the door, she said. Pierce shut the door, and the room tightened. Fluorescence hummed. The old brick held its breath like a throat before a cough. Sit, Asha said. He didn't. He set the paper bag on Chen's cabinet grease, spotting the manila like islands, and laced his fingers at his belt. His tie was loosened 1/2 inch. He looked like a man who'd slept on a couch and told himself it was strategic. What's this? He asked. Harbor Communications, 3rd floor Lexmark, Damien said, voice careful. Document property say P. Cranford, 10:41 this morning. Pierce blinked once, the still kind. You think I printed your affidavit? He said. You think I fed it to Hayes? Asha nodded at the single page on the mat. I think you printed a cover letter for a sweetheart addendum, she said, and I think you did it on a printer that wants to meet juries. He ignored the bait. I didn't leak your filing, he said. I told you not to file today because Bradford's lawyer went ex parte. I was trying to hold your runway. You used my words before I wrote them, she said. Ethan's counsel had our red lines before the clerk stamped. You expect me to believe that just arrived on a breeze. Pierce's eyes slid to the broken wax seal. He clocked the H with the hairline crack. He clocked the gloves on Chen's hands. He clocked the fact that Damien was standing between him and the door. Harbor Communications is my office, he said finally. The printer tag isn't a gotcha. It's where I work. It's where I printed something for someone who asked me to. Who? Asha said. The deputy CTO's aide, he said. Kid named Leo Calder. Sweat through his collar but thought cologne would hide it. He came at 9:15 with a thumb drive and a face like he wanted a parent. He said he needed a clean print because their office printers log badge numbers. He said it was a justification memo, and if it got tied to his boss before the council briefing, somebody would bury it. He asked me because I advise the mayor's PAC, and because I do favors for a living. I didn't read it. I should have. Chen set the page down very gently. Why come to you? He asked. Because the city is 5 hallways with different carpet. Pierce said. Everyone knows who brings paper across which one. And the name tag in the dock, Asha asked. Key it now. Your name? On a page that should bury a program we're calling a leak. I use that machine, he said. It likes to keep me company. If the author wasn't set in the file, the printer makes one up. It's a feature someone called a feature. He reached into his jacket. Damien flinched. Pierce froze, then pulled out a thin envelope and a hospital blue folder with a notch cut out like a bite. I was coming here to give you this, he said, Before I was the villain of your day, Asha didn't take it. On the table, she said. He slid both onto the antistatic mat. Like a man who had learned not to touch exhibits, the blue folder had a label from a downtown copy shop. There were scuffs at the corners, as if it had lived under a car seat. What is it? Damien said. Pierce pointed with 2 fingers, hand steady, because he knew that looked better. Ethan's message light lit up my phone at 6. He said, 1 voicemail, then nothing. He doesn't leave messages. Ever. It was 16 seconds of empty, and a thing that sounded like a faucet, then a second message from a number with no listing. A man saying the word chain like it made him feel big. I pulled the numbers. I made 1 call I maybe shouldn't have. That's the envelope. Envelope first, Asha said. Chen broke the flap with the same plastic wedge. Because ritual is control. Inside, a printout of 2 call traces, each with carrier headers and the lazy serif of public records. Under that, a grainy still from a security camera over a loading dock. Date time in the corner. Shusan, Sursit, Lingzhou. The angle caught a shoulder. A badge on a lanyard. The bland ugliness of a municipal door. Source. Damien asked. Pierce watched Asha's face. The hospital consortium's telecom vendor owes me 3 favors, he said. I cashed 1. Ethan's voicemail came from a prepaid pinging a tower on South Alameda. The second call chain came from a VoIP line that resolves to a shell. The dock still is from the same minute. That's Leo Calder, carrying food like a cover, going in a back door at City Data. Asha touched the timestamp without touching the paper. Chain, she said. He said, your chain is only as strong as the link that wants money. Pierce said. He said, consider your chain compromised. He meant you. He meant he knew you think about evidence like it's a living thing. He wanted you off balance, and you print his memo. Damien said. Lo. I printed a page, Pierce said. I came here because I am the idiot who thought a favor was neutral. I came here because I think Leo isn't freelancing. I think he's carrying for somebody who will eat him if this goes south. Bradford, Chen said, or someone who eats Bradford's lunches. Pierce said, and let the smallest edge of humor show. You're chasing a man who calls himself a hand. There's always an arm. Asha opened the blue folder. Inside, photos, copied, crooked, a compact disc in a sleeve like we were still in a decade where people believed discs were safety, and a cash receipt with a stapled small claim check from a nonprofit foundation. The check's memo read, Community Resiliency Pilot, Q2. The signature line belonged to a name that had sat in press boxes for 20 years and learned which camera to find. Where did you get this? Asha asked. From a courier who likes baseball and owes me tickets, Pierce said. He runs contracts between foundations and city agencies. He got an extra run this morning. The check went to a sub-account in the same bank where Hayes Park's escrow. The routing number is off by 1 digit from the foundation's main. Offshore Mirror picks it up, routes it back. Looks like charity, acts like plumbing. Chain of custody, Damien said. FedEx label, Pierce said, sliding a finger toward the back of the folder. Signed by a woman named Ortiz at 9:58. I had the courier snap it with his flip phone because he thinks smartphones steal souls. Timestamp is in the EXIF. You can hate me after you hash it. You're good at being useful right when you're suspicious. Asha said, it's why I have a job. Pierce said, it's also why people who scare me know my number. Asha nodded once at Chen. He moved careful, precise through the motions. Photograph. Scan. Hash. Initial. The printer gave up another strip of brutal numbers. Asha listened to the whir and imagined it as breath. Leo, she said. He carries food as cover. He knows which printer's log. He calls to rattle chain. He uses my guy. Pierce's mouth tightened. He uses anyone who thinks process is armor. He said, he thinks armor is a dare. A siren dopplered past the building. The piano downstairs coughed a wrong note and then fell silent. The air shifted. A cool ribbon from the old windows. As a cloud took the sun, "Okay," Asha said, "we need a warrant for the Mirror account. We need to get the bench Monday to say the docket number out loud. On the record, so the seal is not a fog. We need to sit on Ethan and Leo and Bradford separately and see which one blinks when we turn on a light. I can get you a sympathetic AAG to draft the probable cause for the Mirror," Pierce said. "But you have to say my name into the call, or it looks like I'm doing favors that bend. Your name gets said when your name deserves the credit," she said, "right now. It deserves the light." He accepted the hit. He stood there and wore it. Damien's phone buzzed. He glanced and swore under his breath. In that way, Southern men swear when they were raised to apologize to furniture. "Text from Ethan," he said. "You have 10 minutes before I am not reachable." No punctuation. Asha weighed the envelope in her head against the clock. "I go," she said. "You shouldn't go alone," Pierce said. She looked at him. He held the look for one beat, then moved out of the doorway. He opened it with the back of his knuckles, as if doors bite. "Take my car," Damien said, already fishing keys. "Your mirror cam is still a question. Mine's a 2007. No one cares about 2007. Motion cam on the stairwell kicked at 1:30. Chen said, "I'll pull it while you're out. If we get company, I'll call the pizza place and order under Orson Welles." "Ardeated." Pierce blinked. "That a code? It means everything's on fire." Chen said, mild. "And we need all the friends with hoses." They moved fast, then habit more than panic. Asha slid the folder into a hard case, clicked it shut, sealed the seam with evidence tape, and signed one corner with a pen that didn't skip. She pressed her palm to the seal for a second. The heat of skin helps the glue believe. The stairwell smelled like dust and lemon oil. On the landing, a window gave a slice of sky, the color of a bruise going to yellow. Damien's Civic coughed awake with a sound that was mostly will. "Where?" he said. "Ethan wants neutral," she said. "He likes places with glass and cameras and expensive ice." "Willoughby again, or the lobby of somebody's bank." "Willoughby," Pierce said, taking the back seat before she could stop him. "He'll avoid banks today. Too many eyes that write checks." "You invited yourself," Damien said, without looking back. "I'm a gray hat," Pierce said. "This is the part of the story where gray hats earn shirts. They hit lights, then a red, then a stretch, where the city thinned to concrete and wind. A bus grumbled by and bleached the street with diesel tang. A cyclist tapped the hood with 2 fingers like a priest blessing a child. At the next corner, the white Camry from earlier slid off a side street and took a place 2 cars back. No sticker, no bumper story. The driver wore a cap pulled low like a cliché. "You see it," Pierce said, voice gone small. "I see it," Asha said. Damien's jaw worked. "Want me to lose them?" "No," she said. "Let them think we don't see." She checked the case at her feet. The tape line was clean. Her initials were neat. Her hand smelled like adhesive and coffee and the metallic hint of printer heat. They turned onto Waverly. The Willoughby's awning caught a gust and snapped like a sail. A valet stepped forward, smile pinned. Ethan stood beside the revolving door with his hands in his coat pockets and his chin tucked down against the wind. He looked younger and older at once. He didn't wave. He didn't move. Inside, the compressor would hum. The ice would crack. The mirror would make everyone honest at ugly angles. Behind them, the Camry idled. "Okay," Asha said, hand on the hard case. Let's see who thinks they own the chain. The revolving door breathed cold air and citrus cleaner. Inside, glass made everyone reflective and meaner. Ethan stood under the chandelier like a man who'd been dragged there by a rope. No one could see. A minute, he said. 10, Asha said. You wrote it. He heard the accusation. He carried it like a book he couldn't put down. Not here. Pierce angled toward the host stand, flashing a smile that washed off like rain. Damien hung back by the entrance, giving the Camry's driver a mirror look that said he could count. The maitre drifted over with the hush of expensive fabric. Table for 3, Pierce said, already sliding a card, and we like corners. 4, Asha said. Ethan flinched. I shouldn't. You're sitting, she said. They got a leather banquette under a brass sconce. The ice in the water glasses cracked like knuckles. A waitress set down a bottle, and the gloss of her nails reflected in the polished wood-like commas, waiting for a clause. Phones off, Ethan said. Too fast. Airplane mode only, Asha said. Yuyamos. I walk. He opened his hands. Empty. I don't have that kind of money. You work for people who do, Pierce said. Ethan looked at him with a dislike that felt old. You brought him. He brought us information at 6. Asha said, we're trading. Ethan nodded once. He reached into his coat carefully and came out with a cheap plastic Bic and a second pen with a lipstick red barrel. He twisted the red barrel. A micro SD card popped out like a cough. Storage unit keys on here, he said. Units on Alameda. The records are mirrored and salted. Camera above the roll-up door is dead. Someone snipped it. There's a logbook in the office with handwritten entries. Ortiz signed a delivery at 9. Wushaba. She works for Bradford's Shell and the city data vendor on Thursdays. Why keep any of it physical? Pierce asked, almost gentle. Because I watched cloud credentials get sold for a boat. Ethan said, paper doesn't plug into a yacht. Asha didn't touch the card. Chain of custody, she said. He slid a cashier's receipt across. Signed. Bank on 7th. Issued 10 minutes ago. The teller wrote the time with the wrong pen. The ink's wetter. You can see the drag. She could. A line feathered where the nib had hesitated. The small, stupid human proof. What's the cost? She asked. My name, he said. And maybe my job, maybe my mother's house if I need lawyers. You made the chain call. He looked up fast. The chandelier caught in his eyes like heat. I needed you to move, he said. Bradford had Leo by the throat. He stopped. I wanted a different kind of fire. People get burned, Damien said. Ethan nodded like he knew which names. The waitress reappeared with a smile that had been trained. Shall I tell you the specials? No, Asha said, and smiled back. So the woman wouldn't worry this table was trouble. Just the check. We need the stamp. Ethan's fingers worried the Bic. Plastics creaked. You can't leave here with that case, he said, eyes on the hard shell by Asha's calf. Somebody will try for it before you hit the curb. Somebody tried, Pierce said. White Camry, ball cap, no sticker. Ethan's jaw worked. He twisted the Bic until it snapped and let the ink smear his thumb like a bruise. They brought a car to Willoughby. They brought 2, Damien said, looking past Asha. He wasn't moving, but something in his shoulders had shifted to the quiet just before a sprint. Back entrance just got new friends. Suits with square shoes. Valet told them which table, Pierce asked. Valet told them, there's a fee for trouble. Damien said. They liked it. The check came in a leather folder with the restaurant's crest pressed in. Asha pulled a 20, and the receipt printer caught, then spit a curl with time. Register number, server ID. She flipped it, signed her name small and clean, and wrote evidence in the memo line. She took a photo with airplane mode on anyway and a timestamp over the bottom edge. Old habits braid with new. Bathroom, Ethan said, almost standing. Sit, she said. I'm being watched by two men who don't blink enough. He said, if I don't pee, they'll know I'm not human. Be quick, Asha said. Hands where we can see them going and coming. He went. Pierce watched the mirrored wall. Damien shifted, so his back was toward the room and not the glass, because the glass gave too much away. The ice settled. You believe him? Pierce asked. I believe he's scared, she said. Fear is a terrible liar, but a good map. Asha slipped the micro SD into the inside zipper pocket of the hard case, then sealed the pocket seam with a strip of red evidence tape from her wallet kit. She pulled a Sharpie, wrote date, time, location on the edge, and pressed it with her thumb until the glue warmed. The men in square shoes drifted closer with a practiced lack of intention. One laughed at something the other said and checked his watch like a man who measured his life by rooms he'd cleared. The Camry driver came in, cap in hand, to make himself small, and beelined to the bar where he could watch his reflection and theirs. Ethan did not come back. Count 30, Damien said. Then we move. They reached 28 when Asha stood anyway. The bathroom corridor smelled like eucalyptus hand soap and bleach. She pushed the door with her knuckles. A sink ran. A stall door hung open with a lock bolt extended. The small window above the trash can bled cold air and late light. The grate was unscrewed. Two bolts sitting like coins on the sill. Damn it, she said. She grabbed the bolt heads and weighed them a second. Heavy, real. Ethan had unscrewed them with the Bix metal clip. He had planned either survival or betrayal in 16 seconds. She cut back to the table. Damien was on his feet. Pierce stood too, hands out, palms empty. A peaceable animal trying to look like lunchtime. Back doors compromised, Damien said. Front is grinning. Asha shouldered the case. The square shoes men shifted, making space that was also a funnel. She tried to breathe with it instead of against it. The first man smiled. Ms. Rao, he said, naming her like a favor. A word. Later, she said. Send a calendar invite. It's urgent. Everything is today. He reached, not for her, but for the handle of the case. That was the tell. Not her arm, not her shoulder. The case, the blue folder inside it, the thing that could be broken or stolen, and make the rest of the day moot. Asha pivoted, letting his hand slide across the handle like a fish on tile. Damien's left arm came up, not swinging, just blocking. The way men raised in kitchens learn to move around heat. Pierce put his body between the second man and the aisle, with the practiced grace of someone who'd stood in too many elevators with donors who tried to leave early. The waitress dropped a tray somewhere behind them, and the shatter cut the room into sharp pieces. The valet at the front door looked up. The Camry man went for his pocket. Don't, Pierce said. Soft. He did. Damien knocked his wrist with the heel of his hand. The phone skittered. Not a gun, a jammer puck, small and black, with a LED wink. The man cursed. Low. House policy frowns on portable radio stations, Pierce said to the maitre d' without, turning his head from the compliance manual. The maitre didn't break, but the line of his mouth thinned. Gentlemen, he said to the men in square shoes, we are filmed, and you are not with me. Everyone's with someone. The first man said. He should not have said it. He heard himself say it. The hubris made a sound. You could hear if you listened the sound of a step off, a curb you didn't see. A woman broke the line from the bar, with a server's apron, tied crooked, and a tray balanced badly. She caught the corner of the case with 2 fingers and a twist that was pure street. The valve between plan and scramble blew. Damien grabbed for her wrist. She slipped like an eel. The tray went up, bottles went down, and a tide of cold gin ran under shoe. Asha locked eyes with the woman for a slice. Brown eyes, steady, not angry, professional. She had a small scar by her mouth, where a childhood fall had chosen a path. Her lips formed a word that could have been sorry, or could have been. Now, the case left Asha's hand. Hey, Pierce said, a useless, human word. The woman pivoted through the narrow gap like a dancer who'd rehearsed the set with tape on a living room floor. The square shoes men didn't stop her. The Camry man stepped aside. Asha went after her. The kitchen smelled like hot oil and lemons. A line cook cursed in Spanish, then apologized because a woman ran by with a case that didn't belong. A dishwasher's radio hissed static as the jammer pulsed. The back door was open to an alley that tasted like wet cardboard. A delivery fan idled, exhaust sweet. The woman took 3 quick steps and flung the case up into the van's dark, with a grunt and a practiced wrist. License plate, Asha said to herself, jumped and landed wrong on glass that bit her knee. She looked up and the plate was already bolted backward under a plastic cover, meant to blur numbers in cameras. Plate is a lie, she said into nobody. Of course, the fan gunned, fishtailed, and was gone. The alley held only the diesel ghost of it, and the flat slap of a broken chain-link gate returning to rest. Something winked on the wet ground. Asha crouched. There, in the runoff, a small metal charm, an H in wax seal shape, broken in half. It must have been caught in the case's seam and shook free in the run. She picked it up and felt the cut edge against her thumb like a new line in an old map. Behind her, Damien hit the alley, breathing hard. Pierce came second, hands on hips, throat tight. The case, he said, as if saying it made it rewind. It's gone, she said. He closed his eyes and opened them, and then did not do anything stupid with his hand. We've still got the card, he said. Tell me we have the card. She nodded, felt the red tape against her lining like an arterial line you guard on a long transport, and a time-stamped receipt. Damien said, and a waitress who will remember the men who don't blink. And a broken H, Asha said. Symbolism's not admissible, Pierce said, but I like it. From the front, someone shouted. Siren. Not far, not close enough. Ethan did not appear. Asha put the H into her pocket. She pulled her phone out, still in airplane, and wrote with her finger in notes. Case stolen by unknown female. Approx. Wood C. Scar at left mouth. Bar apron. Kitchen exit to alley. Delivery from 1 plate reversed. Shalouk. Sashur. Willoughby. She took a photo of the wet print her knee had made on the cement. She took a photo of the hinge on the gate. She took a photo of the alley mouth, where the city became a slot, and then an answer. What now? Pierce asked. Now, Asha said, standing up and tasting the penny tang of adrenaline. We go to Alameda. We open a door with a red pen. And Ethan. She looked back at the window with its unscrewed grate, and the bolts sitting politely like coins left for a ferryman. He picked a chain, she said. It's pulling. They walked back through the kitchen. The line cook had returned to his pan. The dishwasher had his head down, listening for a station he liked. In the dining room, the maitre d' pretended nothing had happened so hard the world might believe him. As they stepped into the cold, the Camry's absence felt louder than its engine. The awning snapped. A bus wheezed. Somewhere, a dog barked twice, and then remembered it wasn't his fight. The broken H pressed into Asha's palm like a future she hadn't chosen yet. The revolving door breathed cold air and citrus cleaner. Inside, glass made everyone reflective and meaner. Ethan stood under the chandelier like a man who'd been dragged there by a rope. No one could see. A minute, he said, 10, Asha said. You wrote it. He heard the accusation. He carried it like a book he couldn't put down. Not here. Pierce angled toward the host stand, flashing a smile that washed off like rain. Damien hung back by the entrance, giving the Camry's driver a mirror look that said he could count. The maitre drifted over with the hush of expensive fabric. Table for 3, Pierce said, already sliding a card. And we like corners. 4, Asha said. Ethan flinched. I shouldn't. You're sitting, she said. They got a leather banquette under a brass sconce. The ice in the water glasses cracked like knuckles. A waitress set down a bottle, and the gloss of her nails reflected in the polished wood like commas waiting for a clause. Phone's off, Ethan said. Too fast. Airplane mode only, Asha said. You mus. I walk. He opened his hands. Empty. I don't have that kind of money. You work for people who do, Pierce said. Ethan looked at him with a dislike that felt old. You brought him. He brought us information at 6, Asha said. We're trading. Ethan nodded once. He reached into his coat carefully and came out with a cheap plastic Bic and a second pen with a lipstick red barrel. He twisted the red barrel. A micro SD card popped out like a cough. Storage unit keys on here, he said. Units on Alameda. The records are mirrored and salted. Camera above the roll-up door is dead. Someone snipped it. There's a logbook in the office with handwritten entries. Ortiz signed a delivery at 9. Wushaba. She works for Bradford Shell and the city data vendor on Thursdays. Why keep any of it physical? Pierce asked, almost gentle. Because I watched cloud credentials get sold for a boat, Ethan said. Paper doesn't plug into a yacht. Asha didn't touch the card. Chain of custody, she said. He slid a cashier's receipt across, signed, Bank on 7, issued 10 minutes ago. The teller wrote the time with the wrong pen. The ink's wetter. You can see the drag. She could, a line feathered where the nib had hesitated. The small, stupid human proof. What's the cost? She asked. My name, he said, and maybe my job, maybe my mother's house if I need lawyers. You made the chain call. He looked up fast. The chandelier caught in his eyes like heat. I needed you to move, he said. Bradford had Leo by the throat. I wanted he stopped. I wanted a different kind of fire. People get burned. Damien said. Ethan nodded like he knew which names. The waitress reappeared with a smile that had been trained. Shall I tell you the specials? No, Asha said, and smiled back so the woman wouldn't worry. This table was trouble. Just the check. We need the stamp. Ethan's fingers worried the Bic. Plastics creaked. You can't leave here with that case, he said. Eyes on the hard shell by Asha's calf. Somebody will try for it before you hit the curb. Somebody tried. Pierce said. White Camry. Ball cap. No sticker. Ethan's jaw worked. He twisted the Bic until it snapped and let the ink smear his thumb like a bruise. They brought a car to Willoughby. They brought 2, Damien said, looking past Asha. He wasn't moving, but something in his shoulders had shifted to the quiet just before a sprint. Back entrance just got new friends. Suits with square shoes. Valet told them which table. Pierce asked. Valet told them, there's a fee for trouble. Damien said. They liked it. The check came in a leather folder with the restaurant's crest pressed in. Asha pulled a 20, and the receipt printer caught, then spit a curl with time. Register number, server ID. She flipped it, signed her name small and clean, and wrote evidence in the memo line. She took a photo with airplane mode on anyway, and a time stamp over the bottom edge. Old habits braid with new. Bathroom, Ethan said, almost standing. Sit, she said. I'm being watched by 2 men who don't blink enough, he said. If I don't pee, they'll know I'm not human. Be quick, Asha said. Hands where we can see them going and coming. He went. Pierce watched the mirrored wall. Damien shifted, so his back was toward the room and not the glass because the glass gave too much away. The ice settled. "You believe him?" Pierce asked. "I believe he's scared," she said. "Fear is a terrible liar, but a good map." Asha slipped the micro SD into the inside zipper pocket of the hard case, then sealed the pocket seam with a strip of red evidence tape from her wallet kit. She pulled a Sharpie, wrote date, time, location on the edge, and pressed it with her thumb until the glue warmed. The men in square shoes drifted closer with a practiced lack of intention. One laughed at something the other said and checked his watch, like a man who measured his life by rooms he'd cleared. The Camry driver came in, cap in hand to make himself small, and beelined to the bar where he could watch his reflection and theirs. Ethan did not come back. "Count 30, Damien said. "Then we move." They reached 28 when Asha stood anyway. The bathroom corridor smelled like eucalyptus hand soap and bleach. She pushed the door with her knuckles. A sink ran. A stall door hung open with a lock bolt extended. The small window above the trash can bled cold air and late light. The grate was unscrewed, 2 bolts sitting like coins on the sill. "Damn it," she said. She grabbed the bolt heads and weighed them a second. Heavy. Real. Ethan had unscrewed them with the Bix metal clip. He had planned either survival or betrayal in 16 seconds. She cut back to the table. Damien was on his feet. Pierce stood too, hands out, palms empty. A peaceable animal trying to look like lunchtime, back doors compromised. Damien said, "Front is grinning." Asha shouldered the case. The square shoes men shifted, making space that was also a funnel. She tried to breathe with it instead of against it. The first man smiled. "Ms. Rao," he said, naming her like a favor. A word. "Later," she said, "send a calendar invite. It's urgent. Everything is today." He reached not for her, but for the handle of the case. That was the tell. Not her arm, not her shoulder. The case, the blue folder inside it, the thing that could be broken or stolen and make the rest of the day moot. Asha pivoted, letting his hand slide across the handle like a fish on tile. Damien's left arm came up, not swinging, just blocking. The way men raised in kitchens learned to move around heat, Pierce put his body between the second man and the aisle, with the practiced grace of someone who'd stood in too many elevators with donors who tried to leave early. The waitress dropped a tray somewhere behind them, and the shatter cut the room into sharp pieces. The valet at the front door looked up. The Camry man went for his pocket. "Don't," Pierce said. Soft. "Hey did." Damien knocked his wrist with the heel of his hand. The phone skittered. Not a gun, a jammer puck, small and black, with a LED wink. The man cursed. "Low. House policy frowns on portable radio stations," Pierce said to the maitre d' without turning his head. From the compliance manual. The maitre didn't break, but the line of his mouth thinned. "Gentlemen," he said to the men in square shoes, "we are filmed, and you are not with me. Everyone's with someone." The first man said. He should not have said it. He heard himself say it. The hubris made a sound you could hear. If you listened, the sound of a step off, a curb you didn't see. A woman broke the line from the bar with a server's apron tied crooked and a tray balanced badly. She caught the corner of the case with 2 fingers and a twist that was pure street. The valve between plan and scramble blew. Damien grabbed for her wrist. She slipped like an eel. The tray went up, bottles went down, and a tide of cold gin ran under shoes. Asha locked eyes with the woman for a slice. Brown eyes, steady, not angry, professional. She had a small scar by her mouth where a childhood fall had chosen a path. Her lips formed a word that could have been sorry, or could have been. Now, the case left Asha's hand. "Hey," Pierce said. A useless, human word, The woman pivoted through the narrow gap like a dancer who'd rehearsed the set with tape on a living room floor. The square shoes men didn't stop her. The Camry man stepped aside. Asha went after her. The kitchen smelled like hot oil and lemons. A line cook cursed in Spanish, then apologized because a woman ran by with a case that didn't belong. A dishwasher's radio hissed static as the jammer pulsed. The back door was open to an alley that tasted like wet cardboard. A delivery fan idled, exhaust sweet. The woman took 3 quick steps and flung the case up into the van's dark with a grunt and a practiced wrist. License plate, Asha said to herself, jumped, and landed wrong on glass that bit her knee. She looked up and the plate was already bolted backward under a plastic cover, meant to blur numbers in cameras. Plate is a lie, she said into nobody. Of course. The fan gunned, fishtailed, and was gone. The alley held only the diesel ghost of it, and the flat slap of a broken chain-link gate returning to rest. Something winked on the wet ground. Asha crouched. There, in the runoff, a small metal charm, an H in wax seal shape, broken in half. It must have been caught in the case's seam and shook free in the run. She picked it up and felt the cut edge against her thumb like a new line in an old map. Behind her, Damien hit the alley, breathing hard. Pierce came second, hands on hips, throat tight. The case, he said, as if saying it made it rewind. It's gone, she said. He closed his eyes and opened them, and then did not do anything stupid with his hand. We've still got the card, he said. Tell me we have the card. She nodded, felt the red tape against her lining, like an arterial line you guard on a long transport. And a time-stamped receipt, Damien said, and a waitress who will remember the men who don't blink, and a broken H, Asha said. Symbolism's not admissible. Pierce said, but I like it. From the front, someone shouted, siren. Not far, not close enough. Ethan did not appear. Asha put the H into her pocket. She pulled her phone out, still in airplane, and wrote with her finger in notes, case stolen by unknown female. Approx. Wood C. Scarred lift mouth. Bar apron. Kitchen exit to alley. Delivery from 1 plate reversed. Shaluk. C. Shirar. Willoughby. She took a photo of the wet print her knee had made on the cement. She took a photo of the hinge on the gate. She took a photo of the alley mouth, where the city became a slot. And then an answer. What now? Pierce asked. Now, Asha said, standing up and tasting the penny tang of adrenaline, we go to Alameda. We open a door with a red pen. And Ethan. She looked back at the window with its unscrewed grate, and the bolts sitting politely, like coins left for a ferryman. He picked a chain, she said. It's pulling. They walked back through the kitchen. The line cook had returned to his pan. The dishwasher had his head down, listening for a station he liked. In the dining room, the maitre d' pretended nothing had happened so hard. The world might believe him. As they stepped into the cold, the Camry's absence felt louder than its engine. The awning snapped. A bus wheezed. Somewhere, a dog barked twice, and then remembered it wasn't his fight. The broken H pressed into Asha's palm like a future she hadn't chosen yet. At its heart, this story reminds us that silence has a cost, and truth, though heavy, is the only thing that sets us free. It's not just about corruption or systems failing people, it's about how fear, convenience, and complicity can turn good people into bystanders. Asha's journey shows that courage isn't always loud or glamorous. It's often the quiet choice to keep standing when you'd rather walk away. When the odds are stacked, when power hides behind kindness and money, speaking up still matters, because As the old saying goes, gold fears no fire. The test of character doesn't come when things are easy. It comes when doing the right thing might cost you everything. For anyone who's ever been silenced at work, in family, or by their own doubt, this story whispers that self-respect begins with a single act of defiance against injustice. Real justice rarely comes fast, and sometimes it doesn't come clean. But integrity leaves a mark deeper than any win or loss. The chain we build of truth, empathy, accountability is only as strong as the link that refuses to break. What about you? Have you ever faced a moment when silence seemed safer than truth? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. If this resonated with you, hit like to support and subscribe for more stories that challenge, comfort, and make us think. Until next time, I wish you peace that's honest, not quiet, strength that's gentle, not hard, and hope that stays steady, even in the noise.